Hey everybody, Jamie here again from NutriTry, the triathlon nutrition coach on Facebook and Instagram, or just Jamie. So today we're going to talk about how do you fuel long bike rides. So this is a question that I will get asked an awful lot, and I think generally speaking the concern is that when you're going out on a long ride, you know, which I guess would be considered anything 2 hours plus, that obviously you might run out of energy, and if you have ever ran out of energy, if you have ever bonked, then obviously that becomes something that we potentially get a little bit fearful of. So I have bonked a couple of times in the past. Once at the side of the road, this was years ago, went out on a bike ride following a holiday, felt a bit fat, wanted to get back to training. It was a really hot day. I had 2 rounds of toast, took a drink, and about 25 miles in, found myself in a whole world of trouble. Stopped at the side of the road, and fortunately another cyclist came by, gave me some money, and I went to a shop and bought a bar of chocolate, and I was out of trouble. But you know, that's something that I'm forever grateful for, because I was in a mess. So we want to avoid that. Excuse me. So how do we do it? Well, firstly, what's really important, probably most important, is what you do nutritionally the day before. So like I've just described with myself, I'd come back from holiday, felt a bit fat, my calories had been reduced for a few days, and as such when I went on the ride then in an unfueled state, I was in a deficit straight away. So what matters is organising your calories through the week. So if you know, for example, on a Saturday you're going to go out on a long bike ride, the sensible thing to do would be to eat a little bit more on the Friday. Now we're not talking a huge amount here, it will depend about where your calories are generally speaking, but you might increase by 200-300 calories, and essentially the majority of those calories will come from carbohydrate. Now when I say carbohydrate, I mean good quality sources of carbohydrate, so not eating a packet of biscuits, but maybe having a little bit more rice with dinner. Again, frog in the throat. Bit of rice with dinner, maybe a little bit more potato at lunchtime, maybe a little bit more fruit throughout the day. But basically raising the calories up a little bit, all right? So then that means as you go into the next day, you're in a slight surplus. You've got a little bit of energy reserves stored in your muscle. Glycogen, in other words. So that's the first thing. In terms then of breakfast, a lot of people might want to get up and go straight on the ride. Well, that's not very sensible. Really what you want to do, especially if it's a long ride, is you're going to need to get up a little bit earlier and make sure that you eat. So a great breakfast, a couple of slices of rye bread, 3 eggs, an apple, maybe even a little protein shake or some oats on the side. Something 500, 600, 700 calories depending on your size. That's a great breakfast, but obviously then you've got to allow it some time to digest. If you haven't got the time to do that, then you need to have something liquid. So a smoothie would be a good example. Half a pint of milk, a banana, half an avocado, some frozen fruit and some protein powder. You can get a 500-600 calorie shake really easy. Benefit of the liquid is it's going to digest quicker. It's not going to sit as heavy on your stomach, obviously. So there are some ideas for breakfast. So then the next question I get asked a lot is, what should I eat when I'm on a long ride? That was my impression of someone asking me a question. Not very good, you might say, but anyway. Well, really, essentially during the ride, if it's a long ride, you're going to be fueling predominantly from fat. So you need to make sure that there's some fat in the fuel that you have during the ride. So great options there are things like nuts. The good thing about a cashew nut in particular, there's a really nice balance of protein, carbs and fat in a cashew nut. So you're getting a good kind of ratio of all of those macronutrients. So personally what I would suggest is getting a little bag, and in the bag stick a couple of handfuls of nuts, stick a couple of handfuls of dried fruit, maybe some raisins, some dried apricots, something like that. Depending on the temperature, you can even chuck a little bit of chocolate in there. And then that's something to kind of nibble on as you're going around. Easy enough to carry, easy enough to eat. You could easily have 1,000 calories of snacks in a relatively small bag there. Now, aside from that, it would be sensible obviously to have some sort of drink with you which has got some energy in it. So you could make that yourself. It could be 100, 200 ml of orange juice mixed with some water, a little pinch of salt, or you might have some sort of energy drink. But clearly, again, that is a sensible thing to do. And most of those energy drinks will have some sort of electrolytes, which are obviously going to help with things like cramp. So they're good suggestions, in my opinion, for what you should be eating during that long ride. It's about topping up. I guess the other thing you can do is take things like energy bars. Although they're very calorie dense, that's kind of a good thing in that sort of situation if you start to feel like you're running out of energy. So energy bars and gels, maybe have one of each just in case. But if you're nibbling on those nuts, dried fruit and chocolate, you're probably not going to need it. Which then takes me to what you should be doing afterwards, because whilst that's not fueling that long bike ride, it's really important for multiple reasons that you consume something quality afterwards. One of the most important reasons for that is to stop you from binging on a load of crap, because you're obviously likely going to be hungry, but more than that, psychologically, you're going to feel like you deserve something. So a lot of the time, people will eat masses of calories on the day that they train the longest. So if you can have something relatively quickly to kind of suppress those urges, then that's going to help prevent that from happening. So for me, I have a little bit of a sweet tooth. So personally, I would want to kind of suppress that urge for sweet stuff pretty quickly. So I would have a smoothie, and in that smoothie, I would put probably something like almond or coconut milk. I'd stick a scoop of protein, chocolate, I'd stick a banana, I'd stick some cocoa powder, maybe stick a little bit of honey. So it's really sweet and chocolatey, like a chocolate milkshake essentially, but with a little bit more protein and a few other good quality micronutrients from things like the cocoa and the milk, etc. As opposed to just buying one from the shop, which to be honest isn't such a bad option, but you'd be miles better making your own. Not only is it cheaper, it's tastier and obviously better for you. So yeah, well worth doing that post the ride, and that will suppress the urges to hopefully go binging later on, but also obviously help with recovery. So I think that pretty much sums it up. There's one other thing I want to share with you actually, and that is just what we're going to have for dinner tonight, because this is like a really easy, tasty, simple, awesome meal. So you can do this with chicken, or you can do it with prawns. We're going to do it with prawns. So basically, it's like a curry. So in this curry, we're going to have an onion. We're going to have 2 packets of prawns, which will equate to about 250 grams. We're going to have a tin of coconut milk. We're going to have a couple of teaspoons of curry powder. We're going to have some grated raw ginger. We're going to have a little bit of spinach, bit of fresh coriander, salt and pepper. And literally, you just chuck all that in the pan. So if you're doing it with prawns, you'd stick all the other ingredients in, apart from the prawns and the spinach, and basically warm up the sauce, bring it all together, and then you chuck in your prawns. If you're doing it with chicken, you'd cook the chicken first and then chuck the sauce in, because obviously prawns don't take as long to cook as chicken. Depending on where you're at with your goals and your calorie targets and all that sort of stuff, you could either have that with a big portion of white rice, brown rice, doesn't really matter, or you could get a coconut, well, you could have a coconut if you wanted. What I meant to say was a cauliflower, because I'm big into cauliflower at the moment, if you didn't realise. Get a cauliflower, boil it up, drain it, mash it with a masher, and you've pretty much got cauliflower rice. It's easier than grating it. Loads of micronutrients in the cauliflower, obviously way less calories than the rice. So yeah, depending on what you're trying to do, that is a great dinner. So get that down you some point this week. Any questions, comments, obviously stick them below. Give us the thumbs up, and I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. Cheers.